Hello everyone and welcome back to City Skylines. In this mini project, we are going to build a real-life place. This is the Atlantic Road, located in Norway, or rather one island that has part of the Atlantic Road going on it. The Atlantic Road became a famous natural tourist attraction because of the beautiful scenery. It goes over many small islands, having the ocean on one side and the Norwegian mountains on the other. Even though it's an important road connection for the locals, it is also classified as a cultural heritage and a national tourist route. In City Skylines, I wanted to recreate these islands to try some more nature-related projects and just see how it goes. So let's get to it. This map is called the Fjordland. It was made by Mr. Miyagi some time ago. I think it's still available in the workshop. And this mod is, I think, the image overlay, and it does pretty much exactly what it says. So it lets you have an image in the game, kind of nicely painted on the surface. As you can see, this is just a screenshot of Google Maps. There is that distance marker in the corner of the image. So I'm just using that to fiddle with the scale of the image so that it matches the distances in the game. As you can see, the overlay is quite large, so the entire network of islands is also quite big, and I need a lot of open space in order to recreate these islands. I decided to position it roughly where the sea on the map is, but I also needed to delete some of the default islands in there. I'm just using this image overlay. As you can see, it doesn't have like a very high resolution, right? Because I needed to stretch it to like a very large area, but it's obviously just a screenshot. So it's not going to have a very good resolution when it's stretched like this. But it doesn't really matter because I'm just using it to do like a very rough outline of these islands and obviously match the shape of the road. And that's pretty much exactly what I need it for. I'm not showing it in here, but later I also prepared like more detailed screenshots for the overlay that I used for the like more precise edges of these islands. But I was not really using that in the end because I decided to not do like an exact copy of these islands because it was just not possible in the game anyway, because I just don't have the correct assets for doing like a very accurate recreation. But I'm probably going to talk about that later as we progress with the build. So let me talk about some origins of this project because it's kind of interesting. So maybe some of you probably remember this because I did build some of this, some portions of this project on a live stream. I think it was like a year ago or maybe a year and a half ago, something like that. But I never really finished that. I was only building this one island. It was kind of taking a really long time because I haven't done anything like this before. So I was just trying a lot of these detailing techniques, and you guys were just seeing all of that on the live stream. But recently I decided to finally finish this project, and it finally made it into a video after this very, very long time. So what is this project all about, and why am I even doing this? So I really wanted to just try to do some kind of a detailing project that's going to be related more to, it's going to be more natural. So it's going to be a lot of the detailing with rocks or trees and some decals or something like that. Because, like I said, this was a really long time ago and I haven't really done anything like it before. So you're going to see me just struggle a lot in this project with a lot of decals and everything. So this project took a really long time. I'm obviously just editing everything into this like a 25-minute time lapse or something like that, right? But maybe it's actually going to be helpful to you because you might be starting out with some of this detailing. So, it might be interesting. This shot in particular, the reason why it's static like this is because I was having, I think in my recording software, I was having like an overlay there, and I was just painting the stuff, on the screen. So you don't see it in the time lapse, the overlay, but I was looking at it. So that's the reason why the screen there was very, very static, because obviously I couldn't move it because of the overlay. In this particular shot, I just placed like a couple of buildings in there, like some towers or whatever, because I needed to mark the actual locations of the buildings. Again, I did that when I had the overlay on it. So I'm going to have the buildings exactly where they are in real life. In some previous shots, you could have also seen me place some rulers and do the landscaping kind of around them, or do the elevation of the roads around them and stuff like that. When I was doing this on the live stream, there were some viewers from Norway, actually, and they provided me with a link to like Norwegian maps, which are, much more detailed compared to Google Maps. That's usually the case. The national maps are just better than Google Maps if you can find them. And they also have like a very nicely detailed elevation map. So I was able to just recreate the elevation of this island kind of accurately, especially when it comes to the roads and the positions of these buildings. So I don't think I'm really showing all that process in the time lapse, but I was trying to position the buildings so that they are accurately elevated compared to the roads or the sea level or something like that. So as you can see, the map theme and overall colors are not exactly anything like I have in my other series. That's because at the start of this, I was fiddling a lot with the theme mixer details. You can see that I'm not using the theme mixer 2 at this point because, again, this is a very old time lapse. I recorded this a very long time ago, so I didn't have a lot of these mods that I'm using today. But I was definitely doing some relight changes and ultimate eye candy changes, and I finally arrived at this combination of just colors and themes and textures. It's not exactly the final version. You can see that there is like a bluish tint in here in these figures in here. The water is just way too blue and something. So I was not exactly satisfied with that, but you will see later that I just did some changes. Anyway, this is the first experimentation with the decals, because decals are going to be incredibly important with any kind of detailing project, really. This little parking space or whatever this, paved place is, was actually very nice for the first detailing, because all these flat man-made areas are kind of easy to detail because you have a lot of these different decals for exactly these kinds of places available in City Skylines in the workshop, but it's the natural detailing that is usually the more difficult one. Doing these kinds of buildings was actually also not very difficult. These are some mixes of the European suburbia houses, like those very small level 1 buildings, and I think I even downloaded a couple of, I'm not exactly sure what they're called, some like Nordic buildings. Those are probably the ones with the red walls. And I think that actually the largest building on the pier there, I'm not sure what it's called, is actually looking very similar in real life as well. All these other buildings are not exactly all that accurate, but the red big one, that's actually kind of accurate. So, that was nice that I was able to find it. You could have also seen me just place a road. Again, this is something that I did in my other series a lot. I was just placing a road, and towards that road, I placed a couple of different buildings to create some sort of like a palette. And from that palette, I just picked the individual buildings that I really liked, with Move It, and copied them into this place. Now, you can also see that I did that road. I think this is the German countryside road. I'm not exactly sure what it's called, but I had to modify it in the road editor. I basically made it so that it's not going to pull the terrain up towards it, which is going to allow me to have these walls, these embankments, kind of smaller, so that they are going to be closer to the road, which was kind of important. And I was using like a custom-made terraforming network, like a very thin terraforming network, go underneath the road, so it's going to create the shape of the embankment. And on one side of the embankment, which is closer to the ocean, to the open ocean, I placed those like a very uniform looking rocks, because that's actually how it looks in real life. It's not exactly looking, the embankment is not exactly having these kinds of rocks, the like very smooth looking river rocks, because these are literally called river rocks. But I just didn't find anything better in the game, so these are perfectly fine. And they are terrain conforming, which was very important for this particular case. I usually don't like terrain conforming stuff, especially these larger rocks, but these smaller rocks, with this particular use, I was very happy that I can just have them terrain conforming. And on the opposite side of the embankment, I put these decals. And I think that this was actually very soon after, well, not soon, but kind of I'm not sure how to say it in English, but just a couple of days after the prop painter mod, I think it was called, was released. So I was just experimenting with painting even decals. This was actually the first time that I discovered that you can repaint decals with the prop painter and the integration of the prop painter into Move It. So that was actually very nice. You can see that I also did this embankment, this causeway right there for the road. And with that particular one, I was repainting some of the decals to match the rocks that I put over them, so that I can really manipulate all these different textures on the terrain so that I can have a lot more variety. Now, this particular causeway, the one there that you could have seen in the corner just for a little while, yeah, that one, I did the larger rocks on the ocean side and like a smaller river rocks on the bay side, on the land side. I'm not sure how to really call it, because again, that's kind of how it is in real life. I assume that the larger rocks are much more better suited to withstand some of the waves that are crashing into the island from one side, from the ocean side. But obviously on the opposite side, the sea is a lot calmer, so it's not really necessary. But that's just a tiny detail that I think looks very good on that embankment. I just put a couple of more rocks in here. I'm just turning the image overlay on and off and seeing where some of these rocks are, because at this point I still wanted to maintain some accuracy of this build, but later it became clear that with the stuff that I have in the game, I'm not going to be able to just do like a one-to-one recreation, like an accurate recreation. In here I'm using a lot of decals, a lot of different decals, especially for rocks and dirt or some sort of different color to really create a lot more variety on the surfaces. In the game, you have obviously the grass texture, but it's very important to match grass texture with the ruined texture, because that's really going to create a completely different tone of some of the sloped areas. And different grass textures have like different, or maybe it's cliff textures, I'm not exactly sure right now. But you could definitely notice that, for example, cliff, especially cliff, displays the texture. Sometimes some themes have the cliffs appear only on very steep surfaces, and some themes have them appear, especially the vanilla one, has them appear like very early, right? Basically, the grass breaks very early on very smooth surfaces. So you can definitely use a lot of different combinations of themes and textures for these different types of terrain to create just, highly customized surfaces. And obviously couple that with decals. And later I'm actually going to show you another technique, and you can have like a very interesting variety with these surfaces. So basically this entire project was like an exercise in natural detailing, and I highly recommend that if you guys are starting out with detailing or something like that, then definitely do try to maybe even recreate some real life place, especially like a nice looking natural area of, obviously the theme that you like. So it might be like a Norwegian island, or maybe some desert somewhere in the United States or something, whatever you want to learn how to do, right? So again, using the image overlay, in this particular case, I was just doing the parking lot in here. I guess this is like a tourist parking lot where buses just, unload tourists so they can look around or something. But that's not really important. I was using the image overlay to create this outline. I'm going to later delete this outline when I'm going to fill this place with pavement, because obviously I don't really want that outline in there. It's like a curb or wall or something. Doesn't really matter. Anyway, what I was talking about. Oh yeah, the detailing. So the detailing in this place, it's very important to get the colors right. It's definitely important to get the decals right, and kind of learn some techniques in regards to using the decals. I did the video where I explained how different decals work with procedural objects, for example, so you can watch that. I was not really using procedural objects with decals in this particular one, but I was definitely using the fact that decals do have certain height, and you can, for example, make certain decals slightly more pronounced if you have them exactly on the surface, and then you can make them a bit faded if you move them up and down from the surface, like relative to the surface. So that's all these techniques you can use to just again do a lot more variety, because obviously everyone can just slap decals in some places and then cover that with trees, and it's probably going to look very good. But obviously if you want to do some serious detailing, then you kind of want to experiment with things a bit more. I'm not really saying that this is like a perfect example of detailing, like natural landscape or something, but it's a start. I was learning. This time lapse, again, I just cut it into like a 20-25 minute video, but I was playing, I think, over like 4 streams on this island. So couple of hours were definitely spent just experimenting with all these different things. Anyway, while I was saying this, we moved into a different area of the island where in real life there are these rocks. Now, one thing that I noticed when looking at Google Maps, the Norwegian maps, and some pictures of this island, this particular island, is that the island really changes. Obviously, the phases of the year, I kind of can't figure out the word, can't remember the word, what's there. Seasons, yeah. Different seasons obviously look very different on this island, especially in regards to the color of the grass or the bushes on something. But I noticed that even the rocks are kind of different on some maps and some pictures. I'm not sure if that's because of erosion of the island or something. There's obviously the sea level, like high tide, low tide, that plays a huge difference, because obviously you're gonna see a lot more of these rocks if there is a low tide. I'm not sure what I'm recreating in this particular place. I think I'm doing like a low-ish tide in here so that a lot of these rocks are exposed, but especially these rocks are definitely not like accurate recreation of the real life. When I was doing this, I definitely struggled to find very accurate rocks, because these islands are not all this rough. These islands are actually very smooth, because I guess it's logical, because the sea kind of smoothens the rocks, and they are just not going to look this broken or something. So later I'm actually going to go back to this place and change it quite a lot, because I downloaded some recently released rocks that are going to be much more better suited for this area. But nevertheless, I'm going to keep some of this detailing still intact. So using a lot of different rocks in here, and again some decals. What I especially don't like with decals is when people place them over each other, because you can kind of fiddle with procedural object versions of decals, but especially if you don't and you overlap decals, then they are kind of going to flicker over each other. They are going to struggle to figure out which one is going to be displayed on the top, right? So that's especially problematic with like farmlands or something, but even with these natural landscapes, it's sometimes a problem. So that's pretty much the reason why I'm putting these decals kind of far apart from each other, and the areas where the grass shows between the decals, I'm just filling with bushes or trees or something. This part of the time lapse is actually very recent. This is what I've been doing just a couple of days ago, really, when I'm recording this commentary. And in here, I'm finally using the Theme Mixer 2 and all the rest of the mods that I'm currently using. And these are exactly the rocks that I was talking about. So these are the recently released rocks, I think made by Grey Flame. I'm probably going to put like an image in the video from the workshop in here. Must not forget that. And as you can see, again, using procedural objects, kind of scaling them up and down, some of these rocks, rotating them and coloring them. That's very important to match the colors in here. The rocks by default are kind of orange-ish, yellowish tint. So I'm making them slightly blue, which is going to offset the color, and it's going to create these gray looking rocks. I'm putting them over the already finished detailing in here because I didn't really want to just destroy everything and start over, but I just made some of these rocks go underneath what was already finished and matching the colors everywhere they are. It was very important to just copy the same features of different parts of the island into the already detailed parts of the island, so that it's going to look like it has one style. because like one corner of the island I did with different techniques, and when I kind of learned more about this process, then I was just, doing like a better job, right? But I obviously had to return to the previously detailed areas and kind of improve them so that it will all look similar, or something like that. When I'm doing this in here, I think that the colors of some decals or some of these smaller rocks probably reset, because for some reason the prop painter doesn't work for me. It always resets the colors of the props on map load. So I didn't really notice it in here, so it was probably fine, and probably the default color of some of these decals and rocks is fine, but it's probably going to be visible in the time-lapse that it changed. You can also see that the map theme and overall colors changed quite a lot, and I was also doing that different technique that I said I will mention. So you can see that the grass in here got a lot greener, and that's what I did with Theme Mixer 2, because in Theme Mixer 2 you can actually change colors for the different textures, like for example the forest area or the fertile land. So in this particular case, I made the forest area, which is basically like a tint that is displayed on grass when you place some trees over it. You can probably see that in vanilla game. When you have forests, then the ground underneath it is slightly darker, right? So in this case, I made it exactly the opposite. I made it more like shinier or something. And then I'm using some of these decals that are creating like a yellowish ground, so that maybe this island right now looks like summer or something. I'm not exactly all that familiar with how landscape looks like in Norway in different seasons, so I'm not exactly sure, but I definitely like this green color a lot more than before. Doing some last detailing with some of these trees and bushes on this part of the island with that lone building. I also did the power lines, which is kind of an important detail that's very distinct in real life. There's that main power line that goes along the road and then kind of distributes all these smaller power lines in here. I didn't have like a power pole for these small ones, so I just used these logs and I used procedural objects to create these. And these are, by the way, this power line is actually the tram cable made by Pevex. So I was using that in Altengrad for trams some time ago, but in here I'm using that for the power lines because they are easy to work with. They are networks, so that's very good. Anyway, this is the finished thing. So this is one of the connection to this island, this causeway, and as you can see, the rocks looking really good on the side of the embankment. I really like that. The different colors around the road. There's like the orange, yellow grass around the road, and then it's very green where the bushes are, and obviously here and there you have the decals. There's also that breaking of the grass when you have like steeper slopes. So there are a lot of different colors on the ground, and that's exactly what I was aiming for. Anyway, to kind of wrap up the commentary and kind of do like a summary of this project. So this was, like I said, like an exercise of natural detailing, and I highly recommend that you guys try something like this for yourself if you want to just get better at detailing, because when I was starting out with this project, I had no idea how to do this kind of detailing, but it's all about just trial and error, in my opinion. And in the end, you can create really beautiful looking landscapes. So I'm not saying that this is like the best detailing ever. This, many people are doing much better jobs than me in this kind of style, but I'm just really happy how it turned out. I don't know how else to say it. I'm really satisfied with this project. It's like a mini project, like a one-time thing that I did on the live streams that I decided to finally finish and make it into a video. And looking at the cinematics shots right now, I'm really satisfied how it turned out. I changed the water texture for, I think this is the exact same one that I'm using in Altengrad, for example, and it's just looking really good. I really enjoy how it how it looks like. And you can definitely tell that some of these techniques that I was using here, for example, the decal work or just placing all these different bushes and trees, and even repainting the forested area, that's actually something that I did in the recent Altengrad episode. So all these different techniques are just going to translate very well into my other series where I'm doing completely different styles, completely different themes, but obviously the techniques for the detailing are kind of universal, right? You can see the different colors on the rocks, kind of matching different places of the island. Very important to put some bushes or just tiny flowers or tiny trees or something between these rocks. It really hides some of the aspects of these props maybe that you don't like, or you can overlap them and, you know, do all kinds of different things. But in my opinion, what's most important in all of this is just you have to try it for yourself. You have to just get out there and spend a couple of hours detailing. That's pretty much all the advice that anyone is going to be able to give you. And this is the entire island. This was just a one-time thing. This is not a start of a new series or anything. I just wanted to wrap up what we started building on the live stream some time ago. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. Hope you liked it. Maybe you learned something. If you did, then you can put a thumbs up underneath the video, comment, share it, subscribe to the channel if you're new here, and you can also directly support the channel if you want by becoming a member through the join button below. Thanks again for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time.